Hi guys, today I'd like to show you how to create a master page out of the default page that we already have in our computer science demo. So you can see that I have the default page up and I'm looking at it in design view. When I view this page in the browser, which we'll do here, you can see that there are some areas here that we want to have on every new page. So for example, we want to have this header at the top and the links on every new page that we create. We also want to have this gray sidebar area, and we want the content, of course, to be different on every new page. We want this middle part here to be customizable on every new page. So we don't want this same content, but we want this middle area available. And then the footer down at the bottom, we're going to want to be the same on every new page. So the footer, the gray box here, and the header will all be constant features of every new page that we have in our application. So I'm going to close this, and then let's go down back to Visual Studio. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to right click and we're going to add a new item, and the item that we're going to add is going to be a master page, strangely enough. So as soon as it comes up, we'll do that. Okay, so we're going to add a master page, and as we know, the master pages have a .master extension, and I'm just going to call this CS master. Very appropriate, and add it. And when it gets added, you're going to notice that by default we get certain things. We get a page that has a master directive here at the top. Instead of a page directive, we have a master directive with pretty much the same things that are in the page directive. And then we get all of the elements of an HTML page, and in addition to that we get two default content placeholders. Now what we want to do is we want to replace this content, this HTML, with the HTML of our default page, and then we want to decide where the areas are in that default page that we want to be able to customize on every new page and place content placeholders there. So what I'm going to do is take the source of my default page. This is my default page source. And remember, we're using the skeleton template in order to create this, and we're going to talk more about templates like Bootstrap and Skeleton in our Rich Clients class, but we're using an HTML5 sort of a template called Skeleton. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take from the doc type all the way down to the bottom of the page, even all the content. I'm going to take all of this and copy it, and I'm going to go to my master page. I'm going to replace all of the content in the master page with the content that I just copied from my default page, and there it is. So now this is in my master page. Now my goal here is I want to place content placeholders in this page so that I can customize certain areas of it. And the first place I probably want to put a content placeholder is here in the head section, because I might want to be able to write some JavaScript or put some more links to style sheets or some more fonts in here. So I'm going to place a content placeholder right here in the head section. So I'm going to go to my toolbox, and when it populates, you can see that there is a content placeholder right here as one of the tools, right here on the toolbox. So I'm just going to drag and drop that over, and hopefully I'll get it inside the header. And there it is. So I'm going to make a little room so you can see where it is. So there's my content placeholder. And instead of content placeholder 1, I'm going to call it heading placeholder, so that when I see it in my content page, I'll know exactly what it is. It's the one that's in the head section. Now, here's my job for the rest of the page. I need to identify the areas of this page that want to remain static and the areas of this page that I want to be able to customize on every new instance. So I'm going to move down here, and you can see here's my main content. Here's my header and my navigation. Here's my main content. Here's the sidebar that actually appears first in the HTML content. Even though it's going to be off to the side, it's appearing first. And so what I want to do here in the sidebar is I want the sidebar to be there, but all of this content, see where all of my existing content, I want to be able to customize that. So instead of that content, I'm going to get rid of it. Guess what? I'm going to drag over another content placeholder right there. Now this one I'm going to name sidebar content placeholder. So then when I see it in my content page, I'll know exactly what it is. The next thing I want to do, pardon me, is I want to replace the content in the main area. So you can see if I move down that this is the start. Here's my label. It's called LBL Welcome. We're gonna leave that because I want to be able to customize that on every new page. I want to leave this because we're going to expose this label as a property. But the rest of this content, so there's general information, and then here's my text. And I believe at that point, this is my content area, and then it starts the footer. And I want to keep that. I want to leave that the same. So right here underneath my label welcome, guess what? I'm going to drag another content placeholder, and I'm going to call that one main content placeholder. So it's labeled appropriately. And at that point, I'm going to save this. And if we look at the design of our master page, it doesn't look exactly pretty, but it has all the elements that we want to be static on every new page. Now the style sheet will take care of expanding this picture out at the top and applying our colors, and then we just will be responsible for adding the content in these two areas, over on the sidebar and in the main area. The last thing I want to do with my master page is I want to expose a property, and I want that property to be the LBL Welcome label right here so that we can put a new title in every new page. So we're going to do that in just 1 second. So here we are in the code behind of our CS master. I'm in the code behind of my master page here. So you can see that what I've done is I've created a set property, in other words just a write property. We don't really need to read it, but we need to set it. And I've called it page title property, and it's a string. And what I'm doing is I'm taking that label welcome, taking its text property, and allowing myself to set it to whatever I want. So this way I can just customize it on every new page. So once again, I've just created a public property in the code behind of my master page. So now that I have the master page all set up the way that I want it, now the next thing would be to create a child page from this master page. And so I think the first one that we'll do is the login page. That's a pretty simple one to do. So what I want to do is if I take a now what we need to do is we need to be able to add in content to our master page. So once again, this is our master page, and we want to be able to add some content in the middle and in the sidebar. So I'm going to choose my profile page as our first candidate for doing that. So I'm going to take the table that makes up the main content of our login page. So here's that table right here. There's the table and all of its validation controls, and I'm going to also take that validation summary and I'm going to copy that. And now I'm going to create a child page that will use our master page. So I'm going to right click and say add new item. We'll just create a web form and we'll call it profile login content page. And notice that I want the two boxes here both clicked. Place code in separate file, select master page. I'm going to click add. And then it asks me which master page I want to use, and I'm going to use the CS master that we just created. So I'm going to say OK. And I get my three content controls. And this is where naming them is important, because you can see there's my heading, there's my sidebar, and here's my main content. So that's where I want to add that table that has all my login information in it. So when I add the table, that becomes the content. So if I look at it in design, then you can see that I've got my master page elements and then I have all of my login page elements here. And then if we go back to source, I can go to the sidebar, and if I wanted to add content there I could too. So I could add something like maybe an H4 and say something like all students must log in. And then I can add any other content that I want below that. So that would be on my sidebar. And if I save it, that's what my sidebar kind of looks like now. So now I'm going to view this page in the browser. And so here is my profile login content page. That's my child page that's using the master. So let's go ahead and view this page in the browser at this point and see what it looks like. So we're viewing it in the browser. See, this is what it looks like. So here are all the static elements, and here's that content that I put in the sidebar. And then here are my text boxes and my validation controls. So when I try to, if I were to click the button here, it would tell me that I'm missing some things, although I have some default content. So what I want to do now is I want to customize that title. Remember that LBL welcome that comes right at the top of this page? So I'm going to close this and I'm going to go back to my code, and then in the source file of my profile login content page, this is my content page. So I'm going to go right underneath the page directive, and I don't want to break that up, I want to go below it. So let's just fix that. Okay. I'm going to go right below it and I'm going to add a master type directive. So it comes up in IntelliSense when you type that less than sign and then a space and virtual path equals, and just choose your master page, CS master. The reason for this is that in order to use the properties in your master page, Visual Studio needs to create a master class out of your master page, and this is how it does that. We create a master type directive to point it to that master page, and what it really does is it just makes a class called master out of that. So you'll see in a moment when I go to the code behind page now of this guy, of profile login content, when I go to its code behind, then in page load what I want to do is I want to change that label to say something like login please. So I'm going to type in the word master. See, it comes up on IntelliSense, master. And what did we call that property? I think we called it page title property. See there, that comes up on IntelliSense as well. It's a string, and so I'm going to say login please. When I do that, I'm going to save it, I'm going to build it. It builds, and I'm going to view this page in the browser again. And when I do that, you can see